What's up, my man?
Baker, what's up, bro? How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. I'm so
Good, man.
excited to have you on the pod. I know we've been kind of working on getting this set up for a while, and I know this is going to be an awesome conversation. I know it's going to be an awesome episode for everybody because you are just so like introspective, dude. Like talking to you in person and getting to meet you out in San Diego, and then all of the conversations and stuff we've had prior, like you just have this way of like slowing down yourself and like everything around you and just like kind of bringing people to peace. And I know that comes from a lot of self work. So I'm excited to kind of dive into a lot of that today and dive into your journey.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, definitely a lot of work being done.
Yes, for sure. For sure, man. That's what it takes, really. So I like to ask this question, Ruben, for a lot of people like yourself that are getting into. I mean, you've been in the fitness industry for so long, right? And you've
Yeah,
kind of had like a similar winding path to like myself, to Mike, to a lot of the people that I've kind of talked to on the pod so far. But I always think it's interesting how people got their start. Like, how did you get started working out? Not coaching, not business coaching, not any of the stuff you're doing now, but like just working out. Like, why'd you get into the gym?
yeah. I was fat and I was teased. That's the honest
Okay.
answer. I remember vividly.
Yeah.
This girl called me turkey chin because I had a double chin, and that's how fat I was. And then
Wow.
that started my villain arc story of getting in shape. And I remember that whole
Like
summer, during the summer, I just ran for miles. Didn't know about working out, didn't know about eating right. I just started going for runs, long runs. And eventually I lost the weight, came back to the school the next year and looked like a completely different person. But it was completely ego driven, and I just wanted to look good. I just wanted to have more confidence. And that's initially how I got started altogether.
that's wild. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like typically it's especially for us guys, a lot of it is ego driven, especially at first. Like we want to look a certain way, we want to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
It's like I always found myself whenever I was growing up comparing myself to like the guys that like they were the early bloomers. I was like a late bloomer, and so like everyone around me was like getting abs and arm veins and like all these things, and I was like, what are they doing differently? And it was like a lot of them were working out, but they also had the testosterone to be working out and seeing results. And so like whenever
Exactly.
I finally was like sophomore junior year, I hit my growth spurt, like all that stuff was finally happening, and I was working out. It wasn't just like I'm gonna get sore and then kind of like not be able to move for a few days. It was like, wait a second, I put a little bit more weight on the bar. Wait a second, I kind of look
Yeah.
look a little good whenever I flex. And it was like that
Yeah.
stuff just kind of compound, and I just got addicted to the results. Was that how it was for you?
The gains, man. Yeah, because obviously it was ego driven. So I continued to work out. I continued to introduce weights into the workout routine on top of running. And I just started to get more attention. Plus, I liked the way that I felt. I felt better about myself. I had more energy throughout the day. I was more alert in school. So overall, it was a win. And I just continued to keep the ball rolling all the way, all the way. And that was in the high school that happened, actually middle school that happened. So that created the whole story. But I realized I developed more, I realized I developed healthy routines out of it. And I loved that for myself. And I liked the person who I
Yes.
was becoming from those healthy routines.
Yeah, that's huge. So what did you started that in middle school slash high school? How did that evolve for you? Because you started running, and then when did you get into like lifting and becoming this big hoss of a man that we see before us today?
Yeah, bro, that didn't happen until college. And
Okay.
basically, I've been active all throughout middle school and high school. I played sports, I played basketball, and I also ran track, but I didn't really put lifting weights on the forefront until high school. I'm sorry, until college. And that's when, once again, I just wanted to level up at that time. Once I got into college, I was in a new area, I was in a new um I was in a new area, and I was around people that I didn't know. And I had another opportunity to, I guess I would say, level up to a degree with my physical
Yeah.
shape and everything else. And so when I was in college, I took that opportunity to transform myself once again, because the first time I did it, I was like, okay, I quote unquote know how to get lean, or I know how to lose weight or build my confidence or become this confident new version of myself. But when I went to college, man, everybody was good looking. Everybody was fit. And I was like, man, I think I need to do this thing again. So that's when
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw the bigger seniors there lifting heavy weights. I saw the guys with the veins and stuff like that. So I felt like I was at the bottom of the totem pole again. And I decided that, hey, why not just level up again from this point forward and become that guy?
Yeah. You use the terminology like level up, villain arc, like your origin story. You talked about that a lot at your event as well, Fit Boss Weekend, that Mike and I flew out to. What is it? I think it'd be helpful for everyone to kind of understand that about you, and like your affinity for, anime and Goku, and the kind of story that you tell there. Like, why do you identify so hard with that kind of world?
Well, I identify hard with it because I didn't necessarily have a mom and dad teach me the things that anime taught me. And so the things that I actually wanted to learn
Okay.
in life about personal development, about failing and succeeding, about winning, about competing, about becoming the ultimate version of yourself. All that I learned through anime. I didn't necessarily learn that through my parents. I learned a lot of great fundamental truths from my parents. I learned how to be a good person, etc. But how to win, how to evolve, how to conquer, how to turn it on, right? How to have laser vision. All that I got from anime. And I just infused it with my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes so much sense. I've got another friend, Chad, who's been on the podcast a couple of times, and he loves anime as well. He talks about a lot of the same stuff. He uses a lot of the same language, and it's so huge. It is like the parallels that you were drawing while speaking to everybody at the event between the origin story and like what created you as a person, and how that initially looked for you, and then what your first level looked like and what your second level looked like, and how every new challenge that Goku like encounters, he basically becomes a bigger, stronger, more powerful version of himself, and the
Yes.
parallels you drew between that and all of us on our personal journeys, I think it is a super powerful like parallel. It really is, for people to be able to follow and kind of attach themselves to.
Well, I'm from the train of thought that you should evolve as a person and you should continue to
Mm-hmm.
evolve. And I believe that you should be playing to your outer limits as a human being, meaning that some people may say that this is playing it safe. That's not necessarily what I'm actually meaning by that. What I mean by that is by reach your outer limits for whatever you're doing and play to the very extreme of it, right? And everybody has their own extreme. My extreme in fitness is somebody else's, like, I don't know, right? But my
Yeah.
extreme in business is, I can only define that. My extreme for fitness, I can only define that. Everybody has different extremes, but I know that I want to play to my extremes in certain areas of my life, and I also want to level up and grow and learn and evolve in those areas. And now that I am aware of that process, that's the only thing that I look for now. I'll look for challenges so I can grow faster. I'll look for any
Mm-hmm.
gaps in my system so I can fix the leak. And some people may say that this is all personal development. Well, yeah, we're all on this journey to become better, to develop the character. We are the character. And I want to make sure that my character's abilities, all of the skills are all the way to the right. 5 stars on everything for the things I want 5 stars to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you just have such a the way that you're able to distill these kind of like larger concepts that so many people struggle to put words behind, including myself, to put words behind and make it understandable and consumable for people. Like, I love the way that you package those things that you just said. Like, you want to level up as fast as possible, so you look for challenges in order to level up as fast as possible, right? Like, super easy way for saying continue to challenge yourself over and over and over again, and be searching for those things in life. And like, if you're really trying to describe it on a micro scale, you're looking for like tiny challenge over here in fitness, tiny challenge over here in business, tiny challenge over here personally, and you're looking for all these little, but it's just like, no, find challenges, level up faster. I think that's just a beautiful way to package that.
Do you know what the definition of Kaizen means?
Basically, continuous improvement, right?
Yeah, 1% better every day, right? So I try to find where I can grow
Yep.
that 1% better every single day. And that's ultimately what I'm doing. I have this big macro idea of who I want to be, but also when I chunk it all the way down, it's really simple things I need to be doing every single day. After reading Ryan Holiday's book, what is it called? The Obstacle is the Way. That changed the paradigm for me because I know the things that I am avoiding are the things that I need to do in order to evolve faster.
Yeah, I love that. So we talked about how you got your start in fitness. We talked about kind of what that arc looked like as far as starting in running and doing some cardio stuff, and then wanting to just basically keep up with everyone whenever you got to college and not be at the bottom of the totem pole. How did you get your start in the coaching space? Like, what brought you into coaching other people to do the same stuff?
Yeah, well, I have a degree in exercise science, and that's what I went to school for. So when I finally got myself in shape, and actually, there's another backstory to this. In college, me and my buddies,
Okay.
actually made a bet to see who could have a six pack before we go on spring break. And this is where really everything kickstarted off for me because I was always working out, being in shape, but I didn't really take it to the next level until this bet happened. So in college, back in the day, I went to college in Georgia, and everybody goes to Panama City in Georgia for spring break. That was way back when, right? So we all put money in a pot
Yeah.
and we said, okay, whoever can get a six pack before spring break gets the money that's in the pot. And that's actually when I really went all in with the research so I can understand how weight loss and muscle building actually works. And I didn't get into the inner workings of my degree just yet. I was still taking fundamental courses, the introduction courses. So I didn't learn all the things inside of the exercise science program yet because I was only a sophomore at this time. And so what I did was I went to bodybuilding.com. I did all of these workouts. I read all the material and I just studied everything. I did a lot of trial and error and I actually lost weight and I won the bet and I got the money, which was really cool. And then that sparked the idea of wanting to compete. And so I was like, well, I'm already kind of lean. Why not test and place the outer limits and do a competition? And so one of my buddies in college, his name's Ryan, we sat together in science class. He was actually already a weightlifter, pretty heavy in the space. And it was by his influence that I also wanted to compete. And so after I won the bet while we were in Panama City, I went to a Gold's Gym out there and met the owner of the gym. His name was Mike because it was one of the first times I actually went to a real bodybuilding gym. Right. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I love the energy that this gym brings. And so I asked the front desk, I was like, do you all know anybody who does contest prep? And they told me that a guy named Mike, which was the owner, and I got in contact with him and he prepped me for my first show after that. But I did all of that during my spring break in Panama City, which was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. That's so insane that you had the kind of presence of mind or the dedication to do that over spring break. And I have a weird kind of, I guess, like side tangent or side story is I have so many just like dumb things that I did, like getting into the world of bodybuilding or lifting. But I I just picked out like who's the biggest dude in the room. And I was like, if I'm going to get into this thing, like I need to figure out somebody that's doing something like this different. Right. And there was always this one guy that had his hood up and I love the dude to death still, but he always had his hood up and he was like, kind of like grunting and screaming over in the corner. He didn't care what anyone else thought. He wasn't talking to anyone else. It wasn't social hour for him like it was for everybody else at the gym. And so I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to that guy. Like he knows what he's doing. Like I've always been somebody that believes in go talk to the people that are doing what you want to do. And that's how you learn like how to get there faster. Right. And
Yeah.
so I went and talked to him. He gave me like a time and a day. He was like, show up and I'll put you through a workout. I was like, okay. So I showed up, and he was surprised that I even showed up. He's like, people ask me all the time, they never show up. So I'm glad you're here. And like, we became really good friends. He took me through a lot of stuff, and I gained a good amount of muscle from like training with him for a while and eating the way he told me to eat. And he's just kind of like, yeah, like next step would probably be like, just do a competition. I'm like, okay. And he's like, yeah, so let's pick a date. And so I picked a date, and he's like, yeah, just eat less carbs. And so like for me, not having any, like he wasn't coaching me, but for
Yeah.
me, just being like an idiot kid, I was like, 19 at the time. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna eat like no carbs and just like crash diet for 20 weeks until we get to this show. And so I lost like everything. Looking back now, I'm
Yep.
like, what like just dumb. But I lost like all my muscle. I was super flat on stage, everything. I prepped though. I did the show, right?
Yeah.
And it was it was something that I had to kind of learn through and go through. But on my spring break that year, I wanted to still go on spring break, and I was going to be right in the middle of prep, like right smack down in the middle of prep. And so I convinced all my buddies to go to Galveston, Texas for spring break, which is like, if you've ever been to Galveston, like not the prettiest beaches, but it is a
Yeah.
beach. And so I'm like,
It
hey,
is a
if we
beach.
went to Galveston, this would be super cool. Like we could all have fun. Yeah, it's a beach. Not anything like San Diego where you're at. But I convinced them because I was like, hey, this is kind of like a party spot. Like we could all go there. And I only did that because I wanted to go spend the week training at Alphaland Gym in Houston, which was like, I knew it was like an hour and a half away. And so I'm like, if I can convince all these guys to go, then I'm not going to have to bankroll the whole trip. We can all split it. And then while they're all at the beach or chasing girls or whatever, I'll just go work out at Alphaland and like get my little version of a spring break.
So you
So it's just kind of funny.
prioritize
Like
your
that's how
trip
I
around the
tied in my
gym.
spring break. Yes, exactly. And staying on track. And I just thought it was funny. Like that yours started on spring break. Mine kind of like carried on spring break. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The spring break, man, that's where
Okay.
either people get ahead or behind.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So when you got into coaching at first, it sounds like you were kind of almost like pulled into coaching from that first transformation. Did you have people start to like reach out to you and ask you
Yeah.
how you did XYZ? Or was it like, hey, I just did this for myself, maybe I can help you guys, and you started to kind of talk to other people?
Yeah. Going back to that question. So after I came back from spring break, I officially had a coach, right? And I started to get in even better shape. And this is all while I was in college. And that's when people started to ask me what I was doing, etc. And then the thought process came from me selling a coaching program, came from me going to bodybuilding.com and looking at all the free programs, right? And I was already in the entrepreneur mindset of, oh, I can make money from this because I guess people want it. People want this physique. I know health, I know fitness, and I have what people want. And so I was just literally walking around looking good. And I got clients from that. People always ask me, what are you eating? What are you working out on? How do I get like this? How do I become this? And every person that asked me that was an opportunity for me to enroll them into a business potentially. I didn't have one yet. And I just sat with that thought for a moment because I knew that if I had something that people want, I could actually create a business from it. And so what I did was I went back to bodybuilding.com and looked at all of those programs. And I was like, you know what? I can create my own. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be on the web, but I can create my own workout plan, my own nutrition plan, and I can give other people this product that I created. And it was just a basic outline of what you should eat, but the workout plan was more in depth because I wasn't able to prescribe nutrition plans at that time, right? So I got my first client and it was a 12-week program. And this was actually, I took the client after I competed the show because I didn't necessarily want to take on anybody until I could prove to myself that I could do it. But people were always inquiring. So after the show, I took my first client and actually won the show, which was a cherry on top as well. I won the novice and I also came in second overall, I believe. And this was my very first show, which is really cool. And so that also got me
Incredible.
more bragging rights when I came back to campus after winning the show. I had even more people wanting to work with me or ask me questions. And once again, the idea just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. So my coach took me through a 12-week training program. And I thought to myself, you know what? I could do the same thing. This will be my first product. I'll create a 12-week training program. It'll be similar to what I did on contest prep, but without the extra of the cardio, the extraness of the cardio and the low carbs, et cetera.
Yeah.
It will just be something basic that people could follow. And their main goal was just to lose weight. And so my first program, 12-week program, I sold it for $250. And I was in college at that time. And that was my first time offering an online program. And it was in college.
And is that $250 a month, or was that $250
No,
for the
total.
full 12 weeks?
Total for the full 12 weeks.
So were you doing like, was this a product that you were like, hey, here's your PDF, or was it you're doing check-ins and everything for $250 for 12 weeks?
Yeah, I was doing check-ins plus the nutrition plan, the workout plan, and everything. She had personal access to text me whenever she wanted, etc. And then I realized I charged too low
Nice.
for my services.
Yeah.
After that.
That's so funny. I was charging $50 a month starting out whenever I was in college when people started asking me. And then I upped it to like $80 a month. And it's so funny how every time you kind of raise your prices, it feels like everyone starts off undercharging. Every time you raise your prices, it's so funny how we think that the conversion rate's gonna tank, and it never does.
Never does. Never does. And I think the reason why I charged that much at the beginning was because I had experience of working with the coach, and my coach charged me $250 a month. Right. So I was like, well, I'm not going to charge somebody $250 a month. They can just get the whole 12 weeks for $250. And this will be like my testing realm of.
So how'd you go from that initial test client and kind of test product? How did you build that into, what was originally your kind of coaching empire?
Yeah, well, there's more to the journey, actually. So being an exercise science student, there was the opportunity for me to also do an internship at the end of my graduation. Actually, it wasn't an opportunity. It was forced upon us. We had to do an internship. And so during my internship, I worked with Verizon Wireless, and I was their corporate health and wellness coordinator there in Atlanta, Georgia. And it started off as an internship. Yeah, it was really cool. It was a paid internship. It was like I was one of 3 people that got paid internships from our college, which I was pretty excited about. And so I was there training all the people, the employees that worked there. And I led classes. I taught spin classes. I did one-on-one coaching. And what happened with my business up until that point was my workout programs and coaching was just side money for me to party with. It wasn't necessarily me wanting to build an empire. At the time, I didn't even have the thought process of it becoming that, actually. It was just something that I know I could do to make money on demand because I knew I could do it and I had something that people want. And so it was just my hustler's mentality of just making money and having fun at that point. But after college, I went and did this internship, and all of my clients kind of slowly dialed back because my only goal at the time was to graduate. Right. So I had a paying internship and I needed to complete this so I can graduate. So I canceled out all my clients, or they just got finished with their coaching program. And I did that for 3 years working with Verizon. So after my internship, I did such a great job. They kept me on and I was there for another 2 years. But what happened next was that I wasn't making enough money, and I was only making a certain amount, $40,000 a year at that internship that led into a full-time job. And I was like, man, I want to make more money. And so I was actually training some of the sales guys that worked for Verizon Wireless. They would come into the gym when they had breaks from doing their calls, and I would just pick their brain about sales. And they would tell me that it's the way to go. You make so much money doing sales, and it's just a great opportunity. And they did inside sales. And so that kind of just sparked my imagination on how much money I could just make just by selling stuff in general, just selling stuff. And so my cousin was actually a pharmaceutical sales representative. I had a conversation with her. I said, hey, I have one foot in the door at Verizon Wireless, but do you think I should start applying for pharmacy companies so I can be a pharmaceutical sales rep? And she says, yes, you should 100% do it. You get a ton of benefits, company car, all the good stuff. And she kind of coached me up to apply. And then I got a job with a pharmaceutical sales as a pharmaceutical sales rep. And it was awesome. My base went from $40,000 a month or a year to my first pharmaceutical job. It was $70,000 a year. I stayed with that company for 2 years and then transferred to another company. And then my base went up again to 100,000. And then I stayed with them for another 2 years. And then at that point, that company started to transition in their product line and they started selling pain medication. And that's actually when I got out. And also, one thing that I realized is that I needed my freedom back. I was working in corporate. Yeah. I was in and out of the office all day. I was providing lunch to the doctors every single day, but the lunch is what they wanted. So I had a hard time sticking to my diet and my routine, etc. I also didn't jive that well with my manager at the time. And so it was just this big thing where I was like, I got to get up out of here. This corporate world, I'm not sure if it's the right place for me anymore. And so I saved up some money because I actually started making some. And I made a lateral move with going back online after I saved up enough money. And before I made that lateral move, I hired a coach and I worked part-time taking on a few online clients while I had my full-time job. And so once my income with my part-time of me training clients online got to around $5,000 per month, I had a little bit more confidence that I know I could do it. And then it was just a seamless move after that, a seamless transition to get back into the fitness space, go all in with this. If I know I can make $5,000 a month part-time doing this, I can only imagine what I would be making if I put all of my effort and energy and play to my outer limits with this. And so I made the transition, got back in front of the camera and started marketing on Instagram again. And that was it. The rest was history. I continued to build my online fitness business. I built that to about 200 grand a year, plus. I was making around 20 grand a month, actually. That's what I was making. I was making around 20 grand a month. And I hired 5 to 7 different business coaches so I can learn how to do all the things before I even scale my business to that much. Because I was making 5K by myself first, but then at the same time, after I went all in full time at making 5K, there was a lot of things that I didn't know how to do. I knew I could sell people, but I didn't know how to run a company. I didn't know how to manage my business. I didn't know how to do all of these other things that business owners need to learn how to do. And so that's when I hired 5 to 7 different coaches. And the reason why I hired 5 to 7 different coaches, it wasn't all at the same time. I went through their course individually, was because at that time, every coach taught me something, but they did not teach me the whole thing. So I would learn one thing from one coach, go to another coach, pay another 5 grand or whatever it was to learn something else from a different coach, do the same thing over and over and over again until I completed everything that I needed to complete so that I could run a successful business. And once I learned how to do all that stuff, that's when my business went to 20K. And that's when I decided that I wanted to create my own coaching program so that no other fitness coach has to hire 5 to 7 different business coaches, spend all this money when I could just be the one-stop shop. And I felt confident with doing that because of my experience, all of my experience, everything from start to finish. And now the rest was history.
That's so awesome. And you kind of hit on it right there at the end. My next question was going to be, whenever you did transition from your own coaching business and kind of where you were at with that to coaching other coaches on growing their coaching business. You said you felt confident. Was there any type of like imposter syndrome when you started to make that shift of like, okay, this worked for me, I don't know if this is gonna work for you, but like I think I can help? Was there any type of like imposter syndrome in that transition?
Yeah, I would say I officially got rid of imposter syndrome about 2 years ago. But
Okay.
leading all the way up to that, I've always felt some form of imposter syndrome. And I was like, man, I'm not sure if I'm qualified enough to do this. I'm not sure if I'm confident
Mm-hmm.
enough to do all of this. I'm not sure if I have the smarts to do all of this because I didn't necessarily have the best grades. I didn't go to school to be an entrepreneur. I didn't go to school for marketing.
Yeah.
I went to school for exercise science, right? Now I have to learn a whole different degree of entrepreneurship. And, that in itself was daunting. But my dad was an entrepreneur and my mom was an entrepreneur. Um, they weren't wealthy by any means, but they hustled. And I knew I had that. And I knew that if I could continue to
Mm-hmm.
hustle and focus on this, it could grow into something really big for myself. I also had a lot of faith in myself, and that faith developed from having a faith background. I'm no longer religious, but I did understand and develop what faith actually is and what that really means. Also, having reading books like Think and Grow Rich and other books along the same genre, personal development books, those all helped me along the way as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so normal, man. I think the imposter syndrome creeps in and out for everybody as they're trying to build anything. I think even you probably experienced, just as I did, imposter syndrome just getting into the gym. I remember like
Yeah.
thinking about, I remember experiencing like severe, maybe some of the most severe imposter syndrome of my life when I first started posting gym content on Instagram, bro. Like
Yeah.
that was crippling for me for a while. And it was a big chunk of it was that every time, like after I left high school, every time that I posted something gym related, because these guys didn't know me as a gym guy, my high school buddies would send it into our group chat and just roast me the
You too?
second that post went to them on Instagram, like within like 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens to everybody. And
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say it happens to the best of us.
I remember experiencing, yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember experiencing so much anxiety. Like every time when they started doing that, every time whenever I was going to post something new, fitness related, that was the first thing that hit my head is like, maybe they're right. Like, should I even post this? Like, I'm not big yet. Like, I don't feel like I'm where I want to be. Like, are people even going to listen to me? Do I look good enough to even like post this picture? Like, all of that stuff goes through your head. And I think a lot of that
Yeah.
carries on from kind of phase to phase as you're trying to, like you said, push to the extremes. And the whole point of an extreme, from the definition of extreme, is like you're going beyond the furthest point that you've gone so far. And
Yes.
so it's uncharted territory. And
Yeah.
so in uncharted territory, you're likely to be unsure about the results, successes or failure in this uncharted territory. So you said you kicked it for good 2 years ago. What'd you do 2 years ago to kick it?
Went deeper inside and began to understand myself at the core, at the core level. And I know now I can do all things with a little bit of time and a little bit of knowledge. I can learn anything. I can do anything. I can become anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's, am I willing to do what's required to get what I want? And that's all it was. It was a lot of mindset shifts, a lot of reframing, a lot of paradigm shifts, but it's all mental. Everything is all mental. And your friends making fun of you, like my friends also made fun of me. It was a mental,
Mm-hmm.
it was a mental thing. And they didn't see my vision. And I wasn't going to get mad at them for them not seeing my vision because if I had to turn around and look back of how far I came, I had results. And so they can make fun all they want, but I had the results. And that itself was empowering. And so I've had a mindset coach for the last 5 years now. And I only believe in things that empower me to a degree. And so things like imposter syndrome doesn't fuel me. It actually does the opposite. So I'm not even going to give that
Mm,
thoughts or energy anymore because it doesn't deserve it. I focus and redirect my focus to the things I want. And I just hold on to that. And then I let it go and I just do the work. But that becomes the chief objective aim for myself or my North Star. And so once I set that North Star, I don't care what happens in between. I'm just consistently kaizening all the way up to that North Star. 1% better every single day to
yeah.
that.
I love that so much. Another great example of you just condensing down these huge ideas into just choose your North Star, and whatever happens in between that is whatever's going to happen. You just keep persisting, keep getting a little bit better, and that's the journey.
Honestly, that's really all we have to do because everything else will start to appear because you're already on the journey. As the moment you
Yeah.
choose the destination, things will start to appear because you chose the destination. And things will naturally appear
How
as you go along on the journey.
yeah. How often do you look up, Ruben, and kind of look around you and you got your beautiful apartment in San Diego and all the things you've kind of built. How often do you look up and kind of acknowledge where you're at?
Oh, every day. I love my life so much. I love my business. I love my friends. I love my girl. I mean, every day is it's just fun because I built this life so that I could love it. It's all
Hmm.
about setup. It's all about lifestyle design. And so the position where I'm at right now, I did it on purpose. It was all on purpose. I always optimize my life for time, freedom, and money. And I've always optimized my life so that I could live in somewhat like as if I'm on vacation on an everyday basis. And my first time of
Yeah.
going on a real vacation, I thought to myself, how cool would it be if every day was like this to a degree? And then I thought to myself, well, what kind of things would I add into it and what kind of things will I take away from it? And so I just started building my own dream life. And then I just reverse engineered the process. And then I also, with reverse engineering the process, I had to come up with how much money is required to live this life. Also, what's required of my mentality and me as a man in order to adopt this life and become this guy. And so, once again, more inner work, but I set the destination and I just continue to go along for the ride. But every day, man, because I didn't come from this, I didn't come from money, and I didn't get my own room until I got to college because I've always shared a room growing up. Right. My mom didn't, my
Yeah.
mom raised us as a single mom. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, I believe. And so I didn't necessarily have a dad in the home. My mom did the best that she could do, but I always achieved for better for myself personally, right? I wasn't the smartest kid, but I just wanted more and better things for myself in life. And that started with me developing myself first, and then that externalized for my circumstance.
Did you feel different growing up? Did you feel like you were meant for something different or something more?
Yeah, but I know that also sounds like, oh, of course you did. But yeah, I did. But I didn't know what it was or what I was going to be doing. I always knew that I was going to make a lot of money
Mhm.
and I was going to be really shredded. And that, because that's all I wanted, anyways. Like, I just want to make a lot of money. I want to be
Yeah.
shredded and I want to have fun. I just want to enjoy life. And I didn't know what route I was going to take to get here, but I always knew to some degree that I wanted that. Was I scared of that? Absolutely. The reason why I was scared of that is because I had to step into the light. And what that really means is that I had to get rid of my insecurities. I had to put myself out there a little bit more. And even if I had insecurities, I still had to put myself out there into the light where people could see me and I was vulnerable because posting content, that's putting yourself out there into the light. You're giving people ammo to make fun of you. Right. And so that's not necessarily an easy thing. It's actually a fearful thing if you're just getting started. So there was a lot of challenges and mindset challenges I personally had. But once again, it was all the vision. I knew I wasn't going to be in sports. I didn't get a scholarship, right? I was good, wasn't great. And I knew that if I ever had a chance to make money, it would be from my mind. It wasn't going to be from my body of working hard. I knew that me working hard using my physique would only take me so far, but eventually I would have to use my mind.
Yeah. Wow. That's super powerful. I appreciate you sharing the stuff about your background. I think that helps people to kind of like round you out as a human being, and they might hear things that they can latch onto, you know, like my upbringing, like my parents are still together. They've been together for 30 plus years, but like I grew up in super small town Oklahoma, you know what I mean? And we grew up in a household that I would define, like, now looking, like, I thought we had everything, you know what I mean? Like back then.
Yeah.
And I never like wanted for anything. They provided for us. They took care of us. Like we had a beautiful life. And then like looking back now, like I realized that we had a very, like, whenever my parents started out very young, whenever they had me in particular, before they had my sisters. And back then we were like probably like super low middle class, and they kind of like kept pushing and kind of elevated. And then by the time my youngest sister just graduated high school a year and a half ago, she lived a completely different life for half of her life growing up than myself and my middle sister did. And so
Are you the oldest?
I don't know. It's like looking back, you kind of have a different perspective. I am. Yes, I'm the oldest.
The oldest usually gets it the roughest. I'm the baby,
back,
but still.
Yeah, totally. No, we do. And it is a different relationship that I think you have with your parents as like the oldest versus the baby. Like the baby, I think, ends up being the closest. And I think to the parents themselves, like the relationship wise. And I think like the oldest ends up getting the most, like the parents almost look at the oldest as like a friend. And that's what I noticed a lot about how my relationship with my parents has evolved now, is like I'll get calls from my mom or dad asking me for advice on stuff. And I'll think sometimes, like, when did that shift in our relationship to where they started calling me, asking me for advice, or talking to me more as like a friend or a peer versus their kid? And it's just different. It's a completely different way from how they talk to, you know, my youngest sister, for example. And I don't know. It's cool to look back on that now because you just have a different perspective.
You do.
Of now getting out into the world and making money and building these businesses. You have a different perspective on what all that actually meant now in your upbringing. And so I think being able to talk about those things and give yourself some perspective and give other people perspective on you, it's easy for them to look at Reuben Brooks now and see like, that's unattainable. This dude like was born looking like that. He's just got a Greek god physique. And because of that Greek god physique, like he could sell anything. You know what I mean? Like it's easy for them to justify in their own head that that's just a natural thing that just happened to you. And you're just here because of that. Versus,
let me say something. Let me interject real quick.
Go ahead.
A superpower that I have is making hard stuff look really easy. And so I actually did it on purpose, right? I want you to think that this is easy. And maybe that's the competitive nature that I have for myself. But I made it look easy, but it was fucking hard. It was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. Building a business, building my physique, building the character. That's the hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life, right? Yes, I made it look easy. Maybe part of that is from social media, right? Making things look like a facade. But in actuality, it was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. Right. And when I get on podcasts like this, it's awesome because I get to share people the truth, share with people the truth. And not necessarily that I was like not sharing the truth before, but maybe they just thought and created their own truth instead of understanding or seeking what my truth really is. Right. So I get to be vulnerable. I get to pull back the curtain so you can see and into my inner world. And I get to go deep. But a part of this is making it look easy, because sometimes as a brand and as an entrepreneur, you're supposed to do that too, I believe. Because why are you selling hard work? If
Yeah.
you're a fitness coach, why are you selling the Stairmaster? Why are you selling the cardio, the low carb days, etc.? Right? That's the hard stuff. What you want to be selling is the six pack. You want to be selling the beach photos that your clients are going to get on their vacation, right? That's ultimately what the entrepreneur and the fitness coach should be selling, right? And ultimately, I'm also selling that to the coaches, but it is a challenge. That's why everybody doesn't have it. And cool, so be it. If you're not a person that's up for the challenge, if you're a person that doesn't believe wholeheartedly in themselves and in their vision that they can do it, or if you don't, you seek help so that you can build the confidence up to be able to do those things. And this is not for you. All right. I didn't have the confidence, but I sought out for help in every single thing that I was deficient in. Why? Because I thought that me doing that would make me more whole and more complete. And to a degree, it actually did. And where this all comes back to is just having more inner faith in myself that I can do the things.
Yeah. You've alluded to a bunch of times the personal coaches that you've hired, and that was one thing that Mike and I took away from that event and spending some time with you while we were in San Diego. How many personal coaches do you have, and like what areas of their life do you have them stuck in right now?
Currently, mindset coach. I have a nutrition coach.
Yeah.
And then I also have a business coach. And then I also have somebody helping me with my finances as well. And then I'm also currently in an ads course, and I get ads training on a weekly basis as well. So right now, 5.
And why are you so big on like you put it, hiring people to kind of work on your deficiencies?
If I didn't, I'd be worrying. I'd have so much anxiety. I wouldn't be clear on my direction. When you talk to people that have done it, they'll tell you exactly how to do it so that you don't have to rely on your own thoughts or ideas or assumptions. You just do the work, right? You just like in a six pack, you did it. And hold on, let me actually say this. When you first got your first coach, you trusted what he said, you ate the food, and you did the work. Would you say that you got burned from that coach? Because at the end of it, would you say that you got burned by that coach after you just ate the food and did the work, and you felt like, I'm doing all this, but in retrospect, you lost all of your muscle and you could have done it a totally different way?
Looking back now, it's a different type of, again, it's just perspective now. Like having a little bit of time removed from it, I feel like I could have gotten a lot more guidance, but I also could have asked a lot more questions, and I didn't even know the questions to be asking at that point. I think to your point, what you're getting at.
Because that's your first rodeo, right? And you didn't know what you didn't know. But because you went through it, you gained more knowledge and you gained awareness. And so you could repeat it again with a new level of intellect, and you would have better results, right? And so for me personally, I hired all of these different coaches because the first time around, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And it's more of a learning phase more than anything. It's more of a gathering information phase. And then if you continue on this journey, you're now not starting at the beginning with your next coach. You're starting with new knowledge, right? And this time around the track, you can go faster, and you're missing the curves. You're missing the humps because you already did the lap already. The third time you do it, you're speeding through it, right? And so repetition is the mother of skill. And I like to repeat things over and over and over again until I'm actually masterful at them, or until I become more skillful at them. And so I hired a fitness coach, even though my life has been in fitness for all this time. But every coach needs a coach, and I still need accountability with getting back on track after a weekend of fun, of hanging out in San Diego and living life and enjoying myself. I know that Monday I get back on track, just like you tell your clients to get back on track too, for those of you who are listening. I know with my finances, now that I'm making money, sometimes I can spend more than I need to spend, right? So I need to dial things back. And sure, I can do all of these things on my own to some degree, but I don't want to think about it is number one. And number two, I like to be held accountable. And lastly, number three, what I found is that people who pay attention, right? So I'm paying all of these people for more knowledge and accountability. And I'm also paying more attention to what they're telling me because everything that they're telling me, I could already get for free online anyways, right? But I'm not paying attention to it because I'm not paying for it.
Yeah, I think it's super powerful, man, that you invest so much in personal development. And really all the most successful people that I know do that exact same thing. They're all investing in, really it's the concept that I touched on earlier with like why I sought out that specific guy in the gym in the first place.
Yeah.
I just saw someone that was bigger than me, lifting more weight than me. And it's like, that guy's doing what I want to be doing. I need to talk to him. And you just kind of you feel drawn to that specific person. So I think it's really no different from why our clients hire us. They look at it just like I did that one guy in the gym, and it's just like, he or she has something that I want in my physique. They have a look that I want to achieve. They have a mentality that I want to achieve, and they hire us because of that. And so it's no different in the other areas of your life. People just don't think to seek out coaches in the other areas of life like you have. And I think it's so cool because it is the quickest way to learn. And we there's a little bit of a trend in the industry right now of this grind it out mentality, figure it out yourself, go lone wolf on everybody. Like, yeah, it's you go faster and farther when you go together. And I think you're doing a great job of mastering that concept.
Well, I appreciate it, but it's also just the most logical thing to do. Right? It's the most logical thing to do for all of our analytical people out there. It's the most logical path to success. This is why people Google things. This is why people chat GPT things, because they don't know the answer, right? So you ask for the answer. Sometimes Google and chat GPT, they can't answer you because they don't have experience in the thing, right? And this is why you also need to work with somebody that has the experience. But you're asking already, right? However, the answers that you're getting might not be the exact answers that you need to win with. And so usually why people pay for us, for coaches, is so that they can access more of our knowledge of how we play the game and how we win the game. And ChatGPT and Google, they didn't go through what we went through. They can't give you the roadmap. And this is why you pay for knowledge. So I was reading a book by Brian Tracy called Maximum Achievement. And in the book, he mentioned that 10% of your income needs to be invested in you getting coaching. And the coaching can be on whatever you want, right? And as your income grows, it should still stay at 10%, but the value, the monetary value should increase, right? So I took that knowledge and I applied it to my life. And the more income I made, at first, my income specifically went to fitness coaching, and then it grew to business coaching. And now I grew to other things, right? Because I had more 10% to allocate. But I took that and I ran with it. And now I always save at least 10% of my income for coaching. And I would say that has also been somewhat as a safety net for myself as well, because I feel more confident when I have a coach. I feel confident knowing that I can tell my coach a very vulnerable thing and they'll hold space for me and they'll say something that I should do next, or just let me sit with it and come up with the answer on my own, right? But either way, I'm paying for that to happen. And so that's one of the reasons why I still have coaches to this day, even though I could do a lot of the things on my own. I enjoy it. I enjoy paying for knowledge. I enjoy learning. And I also enjoy playing within the realms of the safety net.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And it really is a fast track to acquiring those the level ups, right? The evolutions that you mentioned earlier is just by talking to people that have been through the thing that you've been through.
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes, just period. And as an entrepreneur, to help you to kind of understand, you're navigating all of the ups and downs that we go through and the highs and lows. And it's this quote basically says that, whatever, no matter what you're experiencing right now, those who came before you have encountered some form of this problem and they overcame it. You can too. And it's like, when you think about it that way, you kind of just like, your shoulders just kind of like settle a little bit. And you think about like, this isn't the first time this has ever come up in the history of human existence. Like, lots of other people have encountered this problem and they all made it through this. Like, I can do the exact same thing.
Yeah. I like to say that we all should feel like we're unique, but also you're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a unique problem.
Yeah.
Your problem has been solved already,
Yeah.
right? To a degree. To a degree. Yes, you are unique, but also you're not at the same time. Especially
Yeah.
if you have business challenges, because if we have all of these people over here making X amount per month and you're not doing it, then what's really happening? Right. It's more of a mindset thing. And you need to shift your reality. You need to reframe some things and change your paradigm so you can see reality in a new way. Because one of my favorite quotes is, when you look at things differently, or when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Right.
Yeah.
And that had always allowed me to make sure to look at things from every different angle. And even more so now, as a business owner, I'm looking at the situation from a top view, from a bottom view, from a side view, from a lateral view. I'm looking from it. I'm thinking as it, I'm thinking around it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's all of these different angles that I'm thinking about, but all of those leads me to new opportunities and new ideas for the one thing that I'm trying to change. And it
Yeah.
makes me feel more complete because I can see a range now of all the different ways I could do this one thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about FitBoss Blueprint, okay? And the thing that you've built up in the business coaching world, helping online trainers, build and scale their coaching
Yeah.
companies. What's different about you in FitBoss Blueprint?
What do you mean by that?
What's different? What enables you to take these trainers to the next level? What's different about your specific processes that allows these people to do it? Is it how you lay it out? Is it how you package it? Is it the timelines that you give them? Is it the I'm just throwing stuff out, the words of affirmation that you have them recite to themselves in the mirror every morning? Like, what is the different thing that you do at FitBoss, and like what do you attribute a lot of your success with your clients to?
Yeah. I built FitBoss off of my failures. So when people come
Mm,
into FitBoss, they're doing a proven method that works. And it's my process that is different, because I've looked at this one challenge with growing my business at all of those different angles.
yeah.
Plus, I had coaches help me with all of those different angles as well. And so when someone comes into my coaching program, they're hit with a straight line to success. Straight line. It's this.
Yeah.
What you're going to be doing in between this straight line, because, and depends on how seasoned you are as a professional and entrepreneur, you're going to go up and down on this straight line, right? Because that's just what tends to happen. However, the most focused entrepreneurs and the most focused coaches, they go
Mm-hmm.
and they hit success. And what is success? Money, time, and freedom for personal trainers and online coaches. That's usually all we want. We want more money, we want more time, we want more freedom. And depending on your goals, we just make sure that we're prioritizing for whatever you want.
Yeah.
So if you're an in-person coach, okay, well, we need to have more time and more freedom, right? You're probably already making money because your calendar is packed out because you don't have any time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And or if your calendar is packed out but you're not making money, well, it's more of a mindset thing. We need to increase your prices and or create another stream of revenue by going online, because we already know that you're a hard worker and a great coach because your calendar is packed out with these clients. We just need another avenue or another stream for money to come into. Right. So
Yeah.
it's me being able to work with the coaches, seeing where they are at, seeing where they're at, knowing that they are unique and not unique at the same time, right?
I
And
love
being able
that.
to work with the coach until they get to success from that point.
Mm-hmm. And really, man, I again, like, your just ability to distill those huge things into just like, it's just a line. things are going to happen in between. That's the North Star concept that you talked about, like that. The way that you just communicate, I think in general is one of your big superpowers, and
Thanks,
the
bro.
reason that so many people trust you to and like help them enable their business to grow and scale. And the reason that they can understand these concepts that you're teaching, that we are teaching, that our partnership together for
Yeah.
Fit Boss people, that it teaches, like all of these things, your ability to communicate that stuff, I think, expedites the entire process for these people, because these are
Yes.
such complex and just novel problems that people are encountering inside of their businesses. And whenever you give them some sort of a framework, like the things that you've been talking about all day today, it gives them that North Star, that guiding framework, that the thing that they can just kind of cling on to. It's like, okay, this is the goal. So whatever happened today that felt like it knocked me off course, I just got to course correct. That's it. Right. Whatever that
That's
course
it.
correction looks like, it's take a case by case basis, day by day basis, minute by minute, hour by hour. How do we get back to the track?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. And I would say that at the end of the day, outside of being an entrepreneur, running my business and wearing all of these different hats, the hat that I'm almost always wearing is the teacher hat. And,
Yep.
when I have the teacher hat on, it's being able to take complex ideas and simplify them so that
Mm-hmm.
anybody can understand at a third grade reading level. So
Yep.
that may also be one of the things that I present that other coaches may not, because things are simple to understand if you can teach them in an understandable way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I've been trying to get better at, but I don't think I'm too good at it yet. I don't think I'm good at explaining things in a distilled down, more simplified manner. And you always hear about Hormozy talk about, like, the average American has that third grade reading level.
Yep.
So if you're using big words and you're using complex concepts and you're using big ideas, they can't understand you. That's why
Yep.
you're not hitting home. So it's something that's kind of a work in progress for me, but I love that you're consciously thinking about those things too.
Thank you,
And it's
bro.
good
But
to
that
know that you've been
also,
working on that.
yeah, well, that also kind of leads back to the anime stuff too, right?
Yeah.
It's people can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
People can relate to it. And so being a good teacher also means to draw parallels, create stories, and communicate that in a way that's relatable to the individual. And if you can do that, then great. People can have a better understanding of what you're trying to get out. And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. Did you get it? Okay, great. Go do the work.
Yeah. They just got to execute. That's all it is.
Execute. Exactly.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, Reuben, this is the BAMCast, right? BAMN stands for by any means necessary. I always like to ask my guests at the very end of the podcast episode, and I want to thank you for your time, but
Yeah.
what are you, Reuben Brooks, going to accomplish by any means necessary?
Generic answer, but
Okay, let's do
become the
it.
best version of myself. Whatever that means to me. I have it defined, but whatever, become the very best version of myself, and always appreciate the moment and Kaizen every day. I would say those couple of things I'm committed for life for.
I
That's
love it.
it. Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Well,
How about
I
you? I
appreciate
want to hear from you though. I know you asked these questions, but I want to hear you. Yeah.
Man, a few guests have kind of turned it on me. My answer, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, changes a little bit each time, but I think it's some version of that, right? There's been different podcast episodes where we've talked a lot about family, and I'm like, man, I want to be. I've always considered myself really, like, I was meant to be a dad and meant to be kind of in that teacher mode for my own. I had a great upbringing, and I attribute so much of who I am today to my parents. And so I'm super excited to get the opportunity to like get to work and on and mold and like breed a new generation of just like what all the things that I've learned, like pass that on to somebody, really. And so I'm really excited for that. I want to be a great father. I'm very, very passionate about being the best husband that I can be to my wife.
Nice.
Being the best kind of like brother, son that I can be. And man, I I don't know where this winding journey of entrepreneurship and stuff is going to take us. And you know, myself, Mike, like you, it's looked different on a day by day, week by week, year by year basis for all of us all the
Yes.
time, you
Yeah.
know? And I also just love the game of business. So
It's a game, bro.
it
It's a
is,
game.
it
You got to
is.
sign up for it and you got to play the game. And it's a game of leadership.
Mhm.
It's a game of being able to come back from failures.
It is.
It's a game of sales, marketing, and management, right? You got to play the game on all the levels.
Mhm.
And once you commit to the game, or from my personal understanding, once I committed to the game, that's when I got the most results possible. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
well, shit, if I got to do this, this is what I got to do. Then so be it. Let's fucking go.
I
Bring
think
it on.
I think it's once you get to the level of being able to look at it as a game, whenever it's not a, and it's such a hard thing because I know a lot of people that are listening to this podcast are maybe not at that point where they can start to gamify it, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I have to bring in this amount of money in my business this month to eat. You know what I mean? To pay the bills. And so they're not at the level yet where they can look at it as like, okay, let's go test some shit this month. Let's go see what we can do. You know, let's have fun with it.
Yeah.
And because if they take a wrong risk and it doesn't go well, then that's their bills this month. You know what I mean?
Well,
So I think it,
I would say to that, and sorry to interrupt, that
you're good.
everybody should look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs
It's
so
been a
that you
long
can
time since someone's
understand.
talked about that to me, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. But it's true because the reason why they can't think higher is because they're at this basic level of survival.
Need. Mm-hmm.
You can't think at a higher degree if your every day is survival. You have no capacity for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So by just looking at the chart and just by listening in on this conversation, you're growing your awareness because now you know that, oh, there's this hierarchy of needs. Okay, right now I'm in a state of survival. How do I get out of this? Right? Just knowing where you're at is beneficial. And also
Yeah.
knowing where you could potentially be at is beneficial. Right. So I would say everybody needs to go to that. And the coolest thing, Earl Nightingale in his book, Lead the Field, said that if there is a pyramid, you as a person can choose what place on the pyramid that you want to land in terms of finances. No one's holding you back. You can aim to the top. The same thing goes with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well. You can aim for the top, or you can be okay with where you're at, but you get to choose, and not choosing is also a choice as well.
Yeah. 100%. So I think for me, it's continuing to kind of play the game of business and evolve in that, right? It's like what I've noticed is every previous evolution of my, like, I'm just playing the game at bigger levels all the time. And
That's it.
I asked you that question earlier of, you know, how often do you look up and kind of acknowledge like where you've gotten to? And I've had a couple of, as we built out this office, dude, like the view, you know, like going into the high rise of the building and like going up to the top floor, like all of that stuff is it's forced me a couple of times this week as we've kind of moved into the office, to just be like, if you would have told, you know, 12-year-old Baker who started making paracord survival bracelets and then didn't even know there was a word for entrepreneurship, but I was just like, I'm a business owner, I really like doing this. And like if you would have told him he would have an office on the 11th floor of a building in Dallas, Texas for one of his companies, it's like his mind would have been blown. He'd been like, we did it. We
Yeah.
did it. And
Yeah.
now, like, if I'm being honest with myself in the day to day, it's sometimes it's just like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And it's
True.
hard for me to slow down and
Hmm.
kind of center myself. And so having a couple of those moments this week, it's been like, you know what? Like you have to acknowledge on a regular basis and build that into your system, so to speak, your operating system of you're always going to be evolving and growing if you continue to do the work to evolve and grow.
Yeah.
And if you can continuously ground yourself and understand that like this is all a process, this is all a game, I'm going to keep doing it as long as I do the work, enjoying the work ends up being so much more fun, because
Oh
it's
yeah.
not I have to be 50% bigger next year or next
Mhm.
month or next, like, it's just like, no, let's just keep playing and let's keep doing the right things, and the right things are going to keep happening.
Also, who said that you had to be 50% bigger, right? You're in
Agreed.
control of your own destiny. And one thing that has helped me out with not looking for the next thing on a continuous basis is by reaching the goal and just sinking into having met the goal
Mm-hmm.
and appreciating yourself for that. Did you celebrate? Did you go on a trip? Like, did you really acknowledge it and just chill and just like pat yourself on the back for it and give yourself a gold star? Because then you'll find yourself, man, I appreciate it even more. Right. And when the next level comes, it will just naturally appear because you'll naturally run to your next challenge. And then that's going to force you to play at another outer limit again. Right. So
Yeah.
the next challenge is gonna come regardless because life is coming at us. Um, but yeah, but you don't always, and I'm not necessarily trying to coach or anything right now, but it's
No,
it's not necessarily always looking for the what next, even though that comes. It's having fun in the now and enjoying it and basking in the success that you created for yourself. And just enjoying, and that may be hard because at the moment you told me earlier that there's a lot of construction going on, and how can I enjoy this when there's all this construction? But
yeah.
I mean, one of the generic things that you said earlier that we always say is you don't have to, you get to, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just a simple mindset shift of, man, fuck, Lil Baker had no clue that this is going to happen. I get to do this. It's not going to be forever, right? This is just a season where the work is really hard right now, but I still get
Totally.
to do this.
Totally. Absolutely. And by the way, I'll take coaching from you any day, man. I appreciate your insights. I appreciate your friendship, man, and just getting to
Appreciate it,
kind of
man.
watch you do your thing. It's awesome. And
Thank you,
I
bro.
especially appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on here to provide the value that you provided. I'm sorry for the connection issues. I don't know
No
what all has
worries.
been going on the whole time. Hopefully we can splice this thing together, and I think it's going to be
Hopefully.
awesome. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man, and your
Well,
time.
thank you for having me. And I appreciate all of your listeners for listening all the way through despite the connection issues. Hopefully, everything made sense. I had a lot of fun on this podcast. And this, too, is also a part of playing the game. I get to do this. So it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Ruben.
Thank you, Baker.